All right, so we are setting up our customized monogram. So we have both our 6-foot piece and roughly our 3-foot piece. We have just enough clearance in here. Sometimes if you're using just the 6-foot piece, it doesn't give you enough height and the image ends up looking elongated, especially if you're doing it on a dance floor. If we were just doing it on a wall, you don't really need that additional height. Usually that one's just fine, but today we're going to use both pieces. So figure out where you're going to put your base plates, and then we're going to get out our pins and make sure that all the pins start to go in here along with the safety clips. So usually these will be pretty snug, so you want to kind of knock them in, preferably with the rubber mallets so you're not making a bunch of noise and scratching up the metal. If you have one that's really stubborn, you can use the regular hammer, but try to use the rubber mallet instead. All you need is just enough clearance so that you can put the safety pin through the hole. Do that for all 4. So try to have your pins so that they go in sideways versus up and down. Makes it just a little bit easier, but otherwise all 4 are on there. So we're now ready to put the connector piece in. So those just drop in there. Make sure the hole is obviously lined up. And then our next piece is going to go on top. And basically you're going to have 8 pins at this point because it's both on the bottom and on the top once we put the connecting piece. So there'll be 8 total. If you get one that's being stubborn, or it kind of went in the wrong way or something, like this one actually looks like maybe it's been just worn or warped. If you need to get it out, use one of the other pins and then just pound it out. That way it should come flying out. So we were really struggling with getting this one. We just couldn't get it through without having to bang super loud and make a ton of noise. As long as you have at least 2, I mean we're gonna have 3 in this case, but for sure 1 on each side. So here we kind of have kitty corner. There's just one that's not fully locked with the pin. That'll be okay because these 3 will support it and that we have both sides. All right, so now we're ready for our next piece to get put up. And ideally, we normally put the 3-foot piece on top and do this one as the kind of the lower part. So you can see from a distance how it looks a little off having that middle part, but so that we didn't have to take this whole top part off, we switched it around. So ideally though, or I should say traditionally, you'd want the 6-foot piece on the bottom and then the 3-foot piece on the top. So we noticed even when we put the top part on, this one still was not really lining up. So we figured it was just an issue of taking this back out and making sure that it truly was lined up in this hole. So the next one we put in now, it worked just fine. So sometimes it's just a little bit of making sure it's going exactly in. Also make sure you never pound these down because you're not going to be able to pull it back up. So they should just kind of set in there. So again, just a reminder, normally you would do the 6-foot piece on the bottom, 3-foot piece on the top. Today we're just making an exception for that. All right, so this is your source 4 light. Very expensive light, so always make sure you're just being extra careful with how you're setting stuff on. There's a couple things to note here. So if you want to zoom and focus, you basically pinch right here and open this up, and it slides up and down and then also turns. So that's how you're able to focus it and or zoom. Once you have it to where you want it, you close it and it locks. So don't try to move this. This is what locks it in place. If you need to unlock it, pinch right on the end, open that up, and then you can turn and or slide. Other things to note, right now all your shutters are closed. So when you pack it up at the end of the night, make sure these shutters are all closed, otherwise these can bend really easily. So right now I'm going to open them up. Here's where your thing's going to slide in. So follow me over here. Once we actually have it in here, this is what will drop in into here. Just like that. Now remember, everything's always reverse, upside down, so essentially your gobo would be upside down if you want it to appear right side up. In this case, we want the audience to see it from this view, so we're actually going to put it sideways. So sometimes you have to maneuver that around. These are your two locks here for being able to slide this up and down. To have it ready for up there, I'm going to have it in this position. I'm going to make sure that's secure, and then I'm going to put my bolt in here and have my butterfly wing nut with me. Then also for up top, I'm going to have this because I'm not going to have a third hand available. So basically this is what's going to keep it from tightening on me while I spin. Make sure you got room. If you have someone with you, make sure someone's holding the ladder. Take your time. You're going up high and you got, something expensive. So you might actually have to slide this a little more forward and move it once we're done. I typically like to put it on my shoulder. Like this. That way I have good secure for putting it up there.
Gotcha.
Alright, so today's a little goofier because we have this ceiling. Swivel around here. But now what I'm able to do is I'm kind of able to always use the weight while I get myself positioned. So now I can actually drop that in. And I'm using the weight of this with holding a good solid grip with my hand to keep this from wanting to tip forward. Because right now there's a lot of weight that you're just supporting here, but having the handle allows you to rest some of the weight up here. Now, switch hands. This is where I want to put this on the bolt so that it doesn't spin on me. So just kind of resting it right with the bolt. And then from underneath, I can start my wing nut. And sometimes here, the other trick I've actually done before, put your arm through, and I'm holding the bolt down just for getting it started. So what's happening right now it's just a process of getting that butterfly wing nut started without it continuing to spin on you. So I don't know if are you able to zoom on that or show it. Just right here on the bottom.
Gotcha.
Yep. So now that I got it started, I can tighten it. Go ahead and hand me the phone. And then you can see right here how the wrench is holding it in place. All right, blue cord goes in the back. And then it clicks. So just by turning it, clicks in. And now from up here, we'll be ready to focus it and aim it down on the dance floor after we put our thing in. All right, so this is our gobo that we're using. We're using a colored one today, which is not typical. But basically, you just slide it into the gobo frame or gobo holder. And like I said, because this is going to be projected at an angle, we're going to turn it sideways. And I think it'll probably end up going this way. You might have to reverse it. Sometimes it's just that trial and error of which way it goes in. So let's estimate something like that. And then we use these, just a little bit of tape on the side so that it keeps it secure. All right, so you can see this is how I was sliding it in, which this would be the right writing, you would think, but we have to reverse it. So we have to just flip this 180 degrees. So we'll just turn that around and then plop it back in. All right, so if you look out on the dance floor, now I'm gonna slide this in. I'm making sure that all my shutters are all the way out. You can adjust them later. But then I get this centered. And then from here, I can focus it. And actually, since we have a little more room, let's slide this whole unit back just a little bit. All right, so from here I can start to decide, if I want it this big, and then focus it up. And you can fine tune it, so you want to make it as crisp as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that, and then once we have it where we like it, lock it in place, and make sure everything is centered. So we'll go stand out there and make sure that actually is centered and looks good for the audience. Couple things to note, if you need to actually rotate the image without having to rotate the gobo itself, you can go underneath the light and there's a knob right here. Just loosen that, lefty loosey, and then you can actually rotate the whole barrel. So I would actually turn this whole barrel left or right. Make sure you don't leave loose stuff up here, and then we'll actually tape this cord to part of here, so that's not just hanging. And same thing with obviously on the floor, we're going to tape everything down, make sure that it's secure. You can't really notice it, but if you needed to close some of your shutters, you could always just close them part way in. Let's just say part of it was hitting the edge of someone's chair and you had to get rid of that excess light. Just remember that it's opposite, so this shutter would actually control the top, and vice versa. If I started to close this shutter up here, it would actually control the part that's closest to me. So everything's opposite with it. All right, there you go. That's setting this up. Make sure you take your time, make sure everything's secure, and then try to focus your light and make sure it looks crisp and best as possible.